What's up, guys, and welcome back to Wake Up Entertainment. So, Advocate Mngomezulu has made another big claim at the Senzo meyiwa trial, and this claim is coming from Warrant Officer Makhubo. This claim is that there were no intruders that entered the Khumalo house. Not only that, Advocate Mngomezulu is saying that he's going to be calling Warrant Officer Makhubo to come and testify to court that there were no intruders that entered the house.
Are you aware that Warrant Officer Makhubo is investigating the docket 375?
My Lord, I'm aware that there was a docket open, but I don't know who was investigating that docket.
Let me get back into what will be the version of Warrant Officer Makhubo. He said he was called upon his arrival. Shadrach Spear called him and asked him if he observed what has happened here, what could be his opinion. And Warrant Officer Makhubo, after he has assessed this, the scene, he told General Spear there and there that there are no intruders that came here.
As a court, please, my lord, I don't know if it's proper to put hearsay evidence to this witness. If Makhubo is going to testify, Warrant Officer Makhubo is going to testify, he can testify about it. But to slip in hearsay evidence by General Sibia via Makhubo, we submit, my lord, that that is not permissible.
Yes, Mr. Mgomezu. It's not hearsay because I mentioned that I'm going to call Warrant Officer Makhubo. Because I said I'm going to call I've called Warrant Officer Makhubo, and I still have to call him on the main. So that cannot be a hearsay. This is what is going to tell the court, because I put it here on record, that Makhubo will tell the court that upon his observation, after he concluded checking the scene, he told Shadrach Spear there and there was no hesitation. He told Makhubo that, he told General Spear that there are no intruders.
So looking at the scene and how all of these things happened is that these alleged intruders were said to have entered the house around 8 or 9. That's the time at which this robbery occurred. So Warrant Officer Makhubo is said to have arrived at the Khumalo house at around 12, that is like 3 hours later. So you can see that Warrant Officer Makhubo, he had like first-hand knowledge and assessed the scene at that time, and actually had seen everything to conclude that there were no intruders that entered the house. Not only that, Warrant Officer Makhubo also told General Sibia that there were no intruders that entered this house. So I'm imagining a scenario where Warrant Officer Makhubo had questioned the witnesses that were inside the house, and they told him that there are intruders that came into the house. After hearing about these confessions from these witnesses, that's when Warrant Officer Makhubo most likely to have whispered to General Sibia to say, no, from the way I'm assessing this scene, there are no intruders that entered this house. So Warrant Officer Makhubo had been called to this scene to more like reconstruct it. So this is definitely like a big point for the defense itself, because if Warrant Officer Makhubo, an investigator, stated that there were no intruders that entered the house, then it directly contradicts the state's narrative of a home invasion. So the big issue again that also I might have missed is that Warrant Officer Makhubo arrived at the Khumalo house when the house was empty, because all the people that were in the house, they had gone to the hospital with Senzo. So what the defense is trying to do here is to show that the initial investigation that was done was flawed in itself, and the crime scene was not handled properly, because when Warrant Officer Makhubo arrived at 12 a.m. and came up with that conclusion that there were no intruders that came into the house, Then the investigators that came like later on in the morning did an investigation when the crime scene itself had already been tampered with. So the defense here, Advocate Mngomezulu, for accused number 2, is like explicitly stating that their client was not at the scene and has no knowledge of these events whatsoever. So they are offering no explanation or any theory whatsoever of what happened inside that kitchen. So this is like a clear denial of involvement and a strategy, obviously, to distance their client from the events inside that house. So here there's a big question that is there. It is that, can Warrant Officer Makhubo's observation be relied on? And this is a complex question that depends like on several factors. And the first argument for reliability from the defense perspective is that this is an expert opinion with training and experience in crime scene assessment. So if you made a professional observation, it definitely carries weight. And also another thing is that Makhubo's arrival, like early on, it gave him an objective view of the scene after the initial chaos, like potentially allowing him to see other things that others missed. And him being called by a senior police officer, it shows that his opinion is definitely valued. So this is the argument for the reliability of Makhubo's observation. And on the other hand, however, there is also an argument against Makhubo's reliability. For example, subjectivity. Crime scene assessment involves some degree of subjective interpretation, so his opinion might not be definitive, and there is also a potential for bias, depending on his relationship with the other officers present. There could be concerns about potential bias. And there is also the issue of hearsay evidence. It's like relying on information that Makhubo said to another person. Eh, Another point is obviously the lack of context in what Makhubo said. Without the exact context of Makhubo's statement, it's difficult to assess its full meaning. No intruders could be interpreted in various ways. So, for example, if Makhubo is called himself, and comes and testifies and confirms and says yes, then it's going to provide context and it's going to strengthen the argument for the defense. And also the extent to which the crime scene was preserved is very, very critical. If it was heavily contaminated, then Makhubo's observation is less reliable. So what is to be assessed, for example, is what time did Magipiri enter into the house? Was it before Makhubo or after Makhubo? If it is after Makhubo, then the defense is a stronger point on this one. And Judge Rata obviously is going to be weighing all of this information to try and find out how much weight can he give to Makhubo's observation. So, in summary, Makhubo's observation has the potential to be a significant point for the defense, but its reliability, it depends on other factors too. And Judge Rata has to carefully consider all the surrounding circumstances before drawing up any conclusion. But Makhubo's testimony is going to be very, very big if he leans with the side of the state. Tell me what you think, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.